Hey everybody, it's Leo here with Building Bellingham, and I am just getting ready to interview Josh and Amanda White, owners of Vitality Bowls. I'm here in Berkeley Village, and we're going to talk more about failures, lessons they've learned along the way, and where they're going with the future of Vitality Bowls. Stay tuned. Welcome everybody. We're sitting here with Amanda and Josh White, owners of Vitality Bowls, and they're not brand new to the area, but just starting out in the course of what it takes to start a business. You guys are newer in the business in this area. So marketing, and you're a loan officer, broker,
a mortgage broker.
So how did you guys come up with this idea to start a health food brand here in Bellingham?
Well, yeah, I'll let her tell the story, but I've always been kind of like an entrepreneur. I can never work for somebody. I don't think that's really in me. I think everybody's wired differently, and that's just who I am. But she's been complete opposite. She's play it safe, 9-to-5 job, 401k,
Hey, there's nothing wrong with the 401k.
I know.
I beg to differ. I don't know. No, anyway, but yeah, just play by the rules. We always joke, she's the rule follower, and I'm the rule breaker, right?
As long as you don't break her rules.
Well, yeah,
don't do that.
Can't do that. Can't do that. But there's a series of events where all of a sudden she's like, you know what? I want to open a business. And I was like, yeah, let's do this. So I'll let her kind of.
Well, I was working in the natural products industry for about 13 years for a really great local company that manufactures supplements and superfoods. And so that kind of became my lifestyle and what I was passionate about. But I was traveling a lot, so I'm like, I am gonna just try and find a different job where I'm not traveling, but it's still marketing. So I did. I found a really amazing local company in the software industry. And within a couple months, I realized that was definitely not for me, and that's all I'll say. And I worked there for 4 months, and within that time, I found Vitality Bowls, and we were just Googling, and I'm like, I just need something different. And so I found Vitality Bowls. I kept trying to talk myself out of it, what else is out there? I need something different. I never found anything different. This just really seemed like the recipe to success for what I'm passionate about.
So, why did you try to talk yourself out of it?
Because it's just such a big thing, undertaking, and I wanted to be sure, so I just didn't really trust my first instincts. So I kept searching and looking, and really never found anything else that compared. So, and we looked at other smoothie shops and juice bars and things like that, and I even considered Linden is in desperate need for something for children. There's nothing for kids to do there. I'm like, let's open up a play area that's really awesome. And then I'm like, wait, I don't like kids. Why would I do that?
You don't know who's watching.
I do love my own kids.
Sorry.
I love my kids, but that's where I draw the line. So I'm like, okay, so we're not gonna have a kid play area. So anyways, we decided on Vitality Bowls. We moved very quickly. I quit my job almost immediately, which maybe wasn't the smartest, because I'm like, oh yeah, we'll open by January 1st.
That was the goal.
Yeah. When did you guys end up opening? Was it June?
May 30th.
May 30th. Yeah. So you guys. So this is an interesting lesson. It's you think that you have this it sounds like you're an optimist about it. You prepare, and you're more of you're gonna go for it, right?
Yeah.
And it sounds like being an optimist is not a bad thing. It's you needed to be a business owner, right? But it's one of those things where you guys kind of quickly found out that timelines generally take, especially when you're relying on other people to contribute to that happening.
Yeah.
It takes longer. There's setbacks. What kind of setbacks did you guys find? What happened?
Well, nobody was in a rush except for us, because I quit my job, and so.
And it could have been a whole nother year later, but she's such attention to detail and getting people exactly what they want right away.
Yeah.
And it still took that.
You'd be like, I need these forms filled out, send them back when you get a chance. And it's 10 minutes later, here you go. What do you need next, But I think finding a contractor that was extremely difficult just to even find one. And then,
Lease negotiations
took a really long time. We had
Barclay's
no idea.
great though.
Yeah.
Barclay's amazing, and I can't imagine being anywhere else.
Yep.
But it just took so much longer. There's lawyers involved, the franchise involved, so it just took so much longer than we expected. And then getting bids back from contractors where,
they're all over the place.
Sticker shock.
One person goes, "Ooh, I'm worth this much money." One person says, "Hey, I need some work." I mean, so how did you end up going through that process?
They actually were all up here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you said you got some sticker shock. What was that like, especially with the startup costs? What was your first thought of like, oh my goodness, this is what it's going to take to start a business?
Yeah, it was like, oh, let's reevaluate. I guess we're taking out a loan.
We're still learning.
We're still
how much it takes.
I mean, just the other day, this is kind of a funny story, but our LLC was administratively dissolved.
Tell me more about that. Why did that happen?
It was actually our SBA lender that was like, by the way, I got this notice from the Secretary of State, like your LLC is like no longer. I'm like, what? So I like log in and you have 4 years or something to reinstate it. So it's like not a big deal. I reinstated it immediately. But I'm just like, we're first timers. We have no idea what we're doing. We're just kind of like rolling with the punches and trying to figure it out. And yeah.
So how did you select Barclay versus another location in Bellingham versus another city?
Well, our families are here, so we knew it was going to be around here. At first we looked at Linden briefly, but the population is pretty low there, so that's not an option at this time. But we actually looked in Fairhaven, different locations. Cordata we thought would be cool. And then we really wanted Barclay Village, but we wanted like over where Mix is. And then we found out that Mix had it. We were so disappointed, and then we found out this was available, and so we
Just
took
randomly,
it. Randomly. We took it, and it ended up being like the very best location. Like I can't imagine being on the other side. I'm so happy we're here. We have so much more visibility with the movie theater being right next door. So that all worked out really well.
So it sounds like you've had a lot of experiences with things that at first that you thought of as big challenges and ended up being kind of a blessing in disguise. Do you feel like a lot of things that have happened since you've started the business have been kind of like that, where at first they're kind of presented as like in that moment you go, oh my gosh, and then later on you kind of can reflect back, and do you have some chance to reflect back on those moments, or is it just go, no reflection, just
That's our life, Leo. I mean, with the business and just in our personal life, like it's so, like we don't know how we're gonna make it, and then we look back and we're like, but we've been brought through this and this and this, and then things just fall into place. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It really is.
And you guys had, I think we had this conversation too. You guys had this moment where blenders went out, kind of like there was things that were kind of happening that were just one after the other. And I think I bumped into you one of those days, and you're like, how are you doing today? And you said, well, we've got our blenders out, and we're trying to figure out the warranties, and like it's kind of a mess today.
Yeah.
Talk to me about what it's like to have messy days. Like some days are great and you have good sales days and you're like on top of the world, and there's those days where things are messy and it's not like with you have your awesome peanut butter everywhere where you could just scoop it up and eat it. It's like messy, like this can go wrong and that could go wrong, and I'm like, tell me, how do you guys deal with that, especially starting the startup mode, like in the beginning phases of this long-lasting business that you're creating?
Well, I'm a control freak, so this has been a really good growth experience for me. So I've just always wanted things to kind of fit into a mold, and where I know exactly what's happening next, and it all works out perfectly. And
Just like everybody's life, right? Yeah.
Getting the store opened was very challenging, and even though everyone says like it happened so much faster, like this seems seamless, and we're like, oh my gosh, we just like.
Do you remember how the floors were a muddy mess and we had 3 days until we were opening?
Yeah, well, it was 3 days before training, and the floors were covered in mud, and we couldn't bring anything in, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. It was crazy, but so with like the blenders breaking, that's incredibly stressful. And I think what I've learned along the way is like we don't have control over everything, and so it's really just kind of take things as they come, realized that it's really not the end of the world when things happen like that.
Yeah.
Like we ended up having to buy a $1,000 blender off of Amazon so it could get here in 2 days, which thank God it did, because it arrived and then another one went out. And
Perfect, right?
But then I found out we did have a warranty, and so then I was able to get them replaced. We could return the one to Amazon. So it's like, don't stress out, just do what you can to like make things run, and then work out the details later. Yeah.
That's awesome. And so you guys burn the boats. Like you guys, I mean, you're full force. You're not working in corporate America anymore. You know, you guys, you're a lone ranger and doing your thing, which is awesome. And now you guys have this business. So, I'm really curious about what is that dynamic like for you guys, and tell me more about what it's like for you coming from that world and seeing her just step into this new world and just totally kick butt at it and grow. What is that like for you?
I don't know. It's been a learning experience for me too, because I feel like this is just magnified. So yeah, I have my own businesses and that sort of thing, but this is just magnified to the 10th degree.
Yeah.
So I've even struggled for the first time in my life. I feel like being anxious at times.
Yeah.
Because again, the whole control thing, right? Like we literally have like you can do the best you can, but you really don't have complete control. You know what I mean? But like 2 months ago, I think both of us were kind of in that spot, or maybe even like a month ago. And we came together. So every morning we get up super early and we just talk, because we don't even have that one-on-one time. Talk about like surrendering control and just what we're dealing with in life. And that's helped tremendously, I think. Like
We were in survival mode really,
because
opening a business, I was working 16, 17 hours a day. He was home with the kids. I had 3 days off.
And there's how many hours in a day? There's 24?
24.
Okay,
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I really respect about what you guys are doing is the amount of grit you guys have, and I think that I want to pass that along to other people that are talking, thinking about opening up a business, but there's this like misconception, I think, from a lot of people that you just sign the lease and you just start working and it kind of just might have a few blips in the radar, but most of it is like pretty smooth. And tell me more about grit. You said you're working 18 hours some days? 16,
17 hours.
Okay, that's a lot of hours. And you're investing pretty much all of the money that you're making on it back into the business, right? So well, talk to me about that. That's a really important piece of the entrepreneurship process and growing business that I think a lot of people miss. And there's no like, you don't just get a cut to. It's like this, start this, even if it's a brilliant idea, and it sucks. It kind of sucks, right?
Kind of.
But in a way, the only way that you would be able to deal with the suck is if you have a vision of what this is going to look like on the other side, right? So tell me more about how do you guys, I know you guys talk in the morning, but how do you guys visualize what's a year down the road or 5 years down the road? What does that look like for you guys?
Well, I think it all boils down to what you're passionate about, and this is something that I think we both truly believe in, like health, wellness, well-being. It's something, working at Flora for 13 years, it's ingrained in me. So to open a business, even though it sucks sometimes and it's so hard, like we're super passionate about it. Like we love the food here, we love the store, we love the vibe, we love our regulars, our customers that come in. So it's really hard, but also another thing I was going to say is when we first started, I was working in the kitchen for like 10, 12 hours a day.
I remember this, yeah.
That is not my passion at all. Like I'm not meant to be in the kitchen all day. I'm meant to be like marketing and event planning and like coming up with ideas. And so that's really, I've shifted my focus in that direction more recently, and we saw some success with that. And so I think even more so now, our plans for the future, it's like, okay, well, what are we going to do in November? Like what kind of stuff are we going to bring to the store in December? And going forward, like we have some really cool stuff coming up in January that we're so excited about. And so I think if you can do something you're passionate about, that really just excites you, then like it just doesn't feel like work, So all that hard stuff that we kind of endured, like over the summer, getting the store open, working countless hours, like I had no idea what I was doing, like ordering food and making sure I had the right quantities of things and we don't get our next shipment until this time. And I mean, it's all just brand new to me.
So there's a lot of this whole process that's just figuring it out and being okay with figuring it out, right? Like and I think one of the things that you just touched on was really cool, that you start out with wearing kind of all of the hats. You're like, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing all of the, the marketing, I'm doing the cooking, the smoothies, the balancing the books at the end of the day, all of these things you guys are all doing, and then slowly what you're saying, you start to the point where you're like, okay, I think we have enough coming in right now where I can start to focus on the thing that I'm actually good at or enjoy, and then you start kind of like leveraging off hats. You start passing them off. What was that like in those moments where you get to like pass off something that you really don't like to do to someone that actually is good at that?
Well, that goes back to the control thing, because
I think it was a leap of faith because we didn't really have any more coming in, but we knew we had to make a change.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I think we have very capable staff. So even though I do things maybe a different way, or I want it done a certain way, I just kind of have to like step back. Like they all know the expectation, and I do, I obviously still work in the kitchen, but I try to not be in there all the time. So it's really just relinquishing control and letting people kind of take charge and, be responsible for something that gives them value to their job,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's really big. So being a person that enjoys control, maybe not enjoys, but needs control, or feels like you need control, how does that feel when you bring when you started bringing people on and you started going through that process of like, well, this is how I like things to be done, and you have this level, this standard. How do you hold people to that standard, or how do you adjust your standard to not say lower it, but like to understand that people are different? What's that process like for you? How has it been for you?
Gosh, she touches on like everything.
I know.
Yeah.
I think we're all good at different things, and I think even realizing that maybe I'm not the best one in the kitchen. We actually, on staff right now in our kitchen, we have our very fastest employee, and I would say he's even faster than I am. So I think
we have an employee that does 2 at a time, like this.
2 blenders at the same time. I'm like, whoa. So if I would have been the only person in control in the kitchen, like maybe I wouldn't have ever seen that. So it's just super important to see everyone and what strengths they bring to the job as well.
And also give grace to some of them. So that was something that we had to go over, because she's in here all the time, right? She was working, like we said, 16, 17-hour days. But we have some high school kids that are in here like 3 or 4 hours, maybe not even a week. Some of them will take like 2 weeks. They don't even have a shift. So then all of a sudden they'll come in and kind of, they have to relearn the process. And she's like, I can't believe that. I can't believe that they didn't remember this and this. And I'm like, well, when was the last time you saw them work?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and it's their first job. So that's been a learning process as well. Like just extending some grace.
Which she's way better at than I am.
You're getting good.
I am getting better, actually.
Yeah. So I want to jump back into the leasing situation. So how was that for you? How did you end up? I know you ended up picking this space because it was in Barclay Village, it was in the place you wanted to be. But what was that like? Have you negotiated a lease before, or is this your first lease that you negotiated?
First one.
Yeah. What was that? What was that like? How did you navigate through that leasing process?
I thought it was I knew it was more than like leasing an apartment, but I didn't think it was that much more. And so originally it was like
I forgot what they called that.
I know. I don't remember what it was called either, but
which we thought was the lease. So we're
kind of like intent.
Yeah.
Like a letter of intent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah. And so.
And we were so close. Like our original offer to them, they almost accepted it. So we're like, oh, we're easily going to start.
It's okay. Yeah. And they're really nice over there.
Yeah.
Like we get along with everyone. They're actually customers of ours. So yeah, we were like, well, this is going to be smooth sailing. And then it just wasn't, even though it probably was in the grand scheme of things. It just took so much longer, and having the lawyers involved, and then a week goes by before you even get a response, sometimes longer, like 2 weeks go by, and then you finally get like red line notes and edits.
Change this, change that.
Yeah.
Good.
And then our lawyer has to look at it and go through the whole thing, and then we have to have conference calls. So it was crazy.
On
one hand, it's good I quit my job when I did,
Because you could devote your full time to it.
I can't imagine working like 8 to 5 and then you're trying to have calls with lawyers. So
sounds exciting.
Yeah.
We learned a lot.
We did.
Yeah. If we do it again, there's definitely a lot of things we'll do differently.
What are your top 3 that you would do differently, or some things you can pass along to other people that are in that position, that are, in that stage of looking to lease out space?
I think reading the fine print, and if you don't understand something, like asking, making sure you understand like every single part. I think we're blindsided a lot, just because we didn't understand and didn't ask the questions on a lot of things.
Well, I also think a lot of the points in the lease were just, meant to protect them, but it's events that would never happen, but it has to be in there just in case. And so I felt like sometimes ourselves or our trusted advisors would say, well, we need to take that out. Like that doesn't seem fair. And so there was a lot of wasted time. But then it's like, now that we're actually in the building, like none of it really matters.
None of it happens, yeah.
It's like we wasted weeks.
In the event that a meteor strikes
Exactly.
Vitality Bowls.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, those were the types of things where I'm like, well, that didn't really matter. I don't know why we wasted so much time on that.
But you guys have been doing this for about 5 months now. And so you're going to reach your first year coming up here in May, right?
Yeah.
And then what does year 3 look like? What does year 5 look like? Because I know it's hard to pick your head up sometimes when you're just trying to get through the first year.
Yeah.
But what is your vision for when this works really well as you grow? What's the next step for you guys?
Ask us next week.
I'm pretty much like, what does tomorrow look like?
I think you're right. Right now, we've been like head down day by day, and we literally are taking time off next week to talk about that. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, because I realize that we have to. Like we're doing day by day. We got to figure out like what's our plan, what's our goal, what's our vision. We kind of lost track of that a little bit.
Because your big vision is bringing more quality health to Bellingham, which is amazing because I eat here a lot, and I mean the days that I walk out here, I don't even really drink coffee, and it's because of sleep and eating well, and you guys are a big contributor to that, so thank you.
Yeah.
But like long term, I mean this, like I just see the track that you guys are already on. I know it seems like you're not out of the woods yet, and that as a business owner, you're probably never going to feel like you're out of the woods, but I'm super excited for you guys, and I'm really excited to hear how that conversation goes next week and what you end up wanting to be your longer term vision. Because you have a vision, but like what is like the Bellingham vision, right? So that's pretty awesome.
I think we have so many good ideas. It's really just there's not enough hours in the day to implement everything. So I think it's kind of narrowing down some things, maybe picking like our top favorites and rolling with that. But I think like there are so many acai bowls popping up in Bellingham right now.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of needs to be a focus coming up.
So we call it the real acai bowls.
Yeah, we're the real. They're not all created equal.
There you go. That's fair.
Like if it comes out of a machine, it might not be a real acai bowl. Or
if you get it from McDonald's, it's probably not a real acai bowl. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's interesting. It's great on one hand because people are seeing it everywhere now. So we have so many customers every day still that are like, what's an acai? Like, do you have teriyaki bowls here? And so just the education.
Yeah.
Now we're not the only ones educating, like there's other stores. So I guess that's good in a sense. But then educating our customers that they're not all created equal, and it's important to look at the ingredients, and if it's like ice cream and sherbet and sorbet and like all this extra stuff, then maybe
it's not accomplishing the same mission. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you guys? I know you guys educate like kind of one-to-one when people come in, but what's your goal of how to educate? Because this is a really like health is so important. It's like it literally is the foundation of how I start my day.
Yeah.
If I don't start, if I go out and I drink and I do this, that, and I don't sleep well, and then I have McDonald's for breakfast, and then what? Like it doesn't set my brain up, my body up. So how do you guys plan on educating? Like, because you guys are already doing a great job of it by coming to our events and doing that, and then also just one-to-one. How do you guys plan on educating on health in general? Next week?
I
Yeah.
think continuing on with the outside events, which we did so many last summer, and that's actually something where less is more, and I think we don't need to be at every single event. That was fun, but just being part of events that make sense, and also having more in-store events. One thing we did recently was a build your own bowl day, and I think that was great. It educated people who maybe don't want to spend $10-11 on something that they can't pronounce and they don't know what it is, and so we just had an option for them to choose their own base. They went through a topping bar. We had Josh here describing what the ingredients were for the toppings, all the different superfoods, so different things like that that bring people in the store, and we have an opportunity to educate them that way.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
I think the first of the year, what we got planned is going to be a big push towards educating people.
Well, we're excited to see what you guys roll out. I'm excited for your next week because that's those kind of introspective inventory taking, like self-inventory. You know, we think that, oh, I don't need that, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, we should do this because it's important to have checkpoints, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, we're all super excited for you guys, and we appreciate you guys being here in Berkeley. You guys bring so much value to the area, and we just like you guys as humans. So thanks for doing what you guys do and bringing health to Bellingham.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Yeah.